I hope you're well. We are doing a live interview with Holly today. We've done a few live interviews in the past with various different people, some of the VIPs. Holly is one of our crew, This Fit crew VIPs, and also one of my very, very best friends. We had a chat about doing a live a little while ago, actually. And she, bless her soul, brave girl that she is, would love to share her story. She's always about promoting awareness because of the story and the journey that she's been through. And she has said that she's going to come on today and have a chat with us about her journey of surviving breast cancer from diagnosis right through to living her life now post cancer treatment. So I am going to, I've seen you come on, Holly, just quickly, just to let you know, I saw the option come up for donations. I hadn't planned to put on donations, but I thought it would be a nice opportunity to link the breast cancer support charity in there, as the option is there, and we are discussing that today. So if anyone would like to send any money to support the charity, I have put the link up in order for you to do so. I am going to invite Holly to come on live with us. I've sent her over a request. We'll have a little chat. I've got a few questions that I've sort of put together. Hello, baby. But if there's any questions, like as we're speaking and stuff like that, you know, feel free to drop them in the comments. We can try and pick them up as we go. Yeah, we'll run through the questions that we've got here. Holly, if you think of anything else, obviously, that we haven't written down that you think's worthwhile sharing and chatting about, obviously this is your opportunity just to sort of share with us as little or as much as you'd like to about your journey and where you're at. So I think the best thing probably to start off with was when you were diagnosed. So how long ago was that? Oh, I can't. Can you hear me? Can you hear? Is your sound on? I can hear movement. No, you sound like, is your phone leaning against something, your speaker?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh, okay. I had it on like a on something. So what was the question?
When were you diagnosed?
So I think it was 3 years ago now, in June, I want to say.
Seems so, like, it just seems like so long ago. It doesn't seem like 3 years, does it?
I know. So much has happened in that 3 years. It's crazy.
Absolutely. So when, obviously, you got your first diagnosis, so how did you get to that point? So how did you realise something was wrong?
So to be honest, I'd noticed that I had a lump sort of in my breast area for a while, but it never even come across my mind that it could be cancer. I was just thought, oh, I've done something in that area, like pulled something or something like that. And then it was literally, I just got out of the shower. It was probably months after I first noticed it. I was living in Sydney at the time in an apartment with some friends, and I just got out of the shower and mentioned to my friend, oh, you know, I've got this lump that's been here for a while, because it was actually like above, I suppose, just above my breast area. And she was like, that's not right. And she called her other friend in, who's a nurse, to feel it. And she went to go to the doctor's, Holly. So literally the next day, I got a doctor's appointment, because it's a little bit easier in Australia than over here. And straight away she felt it and said, yeah, you need to get like an ultrasound, because when you're younger, your tissue in your breast is so dense that a mammogram, which over 50s get sort of yearly now or every couple of years, doesn't always necessarily show up. So it's better to have an ultrasound when you're younger with denser tissue. So that day, again, luckily I was in Australia, I actually called up. They have like a private public sector. I called them and they got me in that day. So I was literally in there. They done the ultrasound and the lady actually said, I can see the lump, but you're only 29 years old. Like the likelihood of it being cancer is very, very slim. It's up to you whether you want to biopsy or not. And to be honest, I did think, oh, maybe I won't because I was paying for it myself. Just lucky for me that I wasn't a backpacker anymore and I actually had a job and I had savings. So I said, yeah, for peace of mind, my mum will kill me if I don't. Like, just do it. And obviously never expected, but 2 days later, I had a call to say, come into the doctors. So I knew straight away that obviously what the news was going to be.
So how long do you think it was from first feeling the lump to actually getting that diagnosis?
I try and think about this all the time because, like I said, I never really thought of it being anything. I was never worried about it. So it was months. I would even go close to maybe 9 months, maybe.
Yeah.
So it was a while. But I was just very lucky that it's from diagnosis to treatment. It was all very quick.
Yeah. So you came back to the UK, didn't you, for your treatment?
So I think I went to the doctors on the Wednesday, had the biopsy Wednesday. I was told on the Friday that I had cancer, and by the Sunday I was flying home to England. So it was all very, very quickly.
Yeah. So coming back to England, so what, hospital the next day? Was it straight in?
I think I got like in a week. My mum this end was ringing the doctors. So yeah, about I think a week later, we'd got through to the breast unit, and we're just so lucky in Colchester to have the breast unit we do because they're absolutely amazing. I know other departments have not got such a good reputation, but the breast unit, honestly, the way they treated me and the compassion they showed me was incredible. So yeah, they sort of signed me through to obviously for treatment. I met my oncologist. He told me all about the chemotherapy. Didn't make sense to me at all, to be honest.
One ear out the other.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even know what chemotherapy was. I didn't know how you had it. I didn't know anything about it. And I think obviously I watched your video with your friend on the cervical cancer and what she said about, you know, like the cold capping and things like that. You literally have no idea.
Well, I never heard of it until obviously you had it. So sort of going back to sort of like the start of your treatment. So the first thing they sort of said to you was that, right, we're going to start chemotherapy. Was that the sort of first process?
So straight away he, you know, sat me down, told me it was a very aggressive form of breast cancer. Again, I didn't know that you get different types of breast cancer. I thought breast cancer was breast cancer, but you get like loads of different hormonal ones. You get non-hormonal ones, which mine was non-hormonal, so it's sometimes quite tricky to treat. So he offered me.
So what's the difference? Sorry, that's pleading my ignorance here.
Yeah, so triple negative is just to do. I don't really know, to be honest, Lisa. I think there's 2 types of people when you get diagnosed with cancer. There's the ones that want to know every last bit of detail, and there's the ones that just wants to know enough information that I need to know, and
so get rid of it.
I just I suppose I put my life in their hands. And I just couldn't cope with. I think my mum probably would be able to tell you more than me. But yeah, there is hormonal type, so that, you know, are connected to some things, and then there's triple negative, which means it's non-hormone related. So the cancer I had was non-hormonal related, and it's typically found in younger women and ones with a BRCA gene, which is a whole nother story. But obviously, as you know, I found out that I had the BRCA2 gene, as has some of my family. So the way they treated it was slightly different. But what I was
you can test for that. Is that you saying you can test for that now as a preventative?
Yeah. So if you've got family members that have, like, if you've had a close family relative that has had breast cancer or ovarian cancer, you can actually go to your doctor and request to have a test, a genetics test, to see if you're more likely to be a carrier of this gene. And it's just, information's power, really. And prevention's better than cure. So if you was to have like an auntie or a nan or a mum or anyone that's had that type of cancer, I would push with your doctor to have the genetics testing, because
It's
you
not
know,
talked about though, is it? Like, you know,
no,
unless someone like you've mentioned it to me, I wouldn't have a clue. But obviously, I understand the
no,
gene through your mum and your sister getting checked out.
yeah,
Um, but it's not freely available
no,
information.
no, which is the sad thing. But it has gone on. Like, luckily, my sister, she's the only one out of my whole family that's been tested that's not had the gene so far. Like, my mum's got it, her sister's got it, all of her 4 children have got it. Um, you know, some of my other cousins have been tested. They've all unfortunately got it. So on one hand, it is scary, but on the other hand, if they didn't know, they couldn't take steps.
So does that mean that they're just more cautious in terms of checking themselves more
Yeah,
regularly?
definitely. So obviously being more cautious for the girls, they can get screening earlier for breast cancer. There's a blood test you can have for ovarian. With ovarian, it's a bit harder because there isn't sort of really any early detection at the moment. But you then have chance to have some surgery to obviously stop, you know, your chances being so high. It's not small, it's, you know, it's a big thing that you have to go through, but you know, some people aren't lucky enough to have that opportunity to make the decision to prevent it. So you've got to either look at it on the one hand that it is a crap card you've been dealt with, but on the other hand, at least you know
Could
and
be
can do something
worse.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So just sort of bringing it back to sort of treatment. So obviously you had the chemotherapy, didn't you? And
yes,
how long? I mean, I know different cancers have, or different stages have different levels of,
yeah,
again, pleading my ignorance, you know, in terms of,
no,
you know, the
yes. So
chemotherapy.
my oncologist, which is a cancer doctor, he offered me the chance to go on a trial that was actually done by Cancer Research. That's why I'm quite like, I'm someone that likes to get behind them, because really they saved my life. Really, I think, with the drug they put me on. So I took part in this trial. So I had 15 sessions of chemotherapy. Um, yeah, it was a rough ride. Some people done a lot worse than me. I think I was one of the lucky ones, even though I was quite poorly. I did end up in hospital. I definitely took it a lot better than some people, so I count my blessings there. And yeah, it was mad because weekly I went in at first for my first sessions, and the ladies that work on the chemotherapy ward there are literally angels on earth. Like, they're the loveliest. I would never have got through what I did without them, you know, because they sort of give me the compassion and the hug when I was down, but they give me the tough love when I needed a kick, you know. So they were just brilliant. So yeah, I enjoyed 15 sessions of that. Along the way, you have to have like MRIs to see. But honestly, I think after my like third session of chemo, I could feel my lump shrinking.
Really?
So that was sort of the thing to egg me on to get
Yeah.
through it, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, went through
See, so
15.
well, to feel something physical, like a progression like that,
Yeah,
because I suppose you don't sort of link it. It's like you can actually feel something reducing, or it's, I suppose, that physical sort of being able to feel it do that is,
yeah,
you know, a great
yeah,
motivator. But yeah, another thing I didn't know about, sort of going back to it, until you had it done, was the whole cold cap treatment. You had that,
yeah,
and a lady I spoke to, Destiny, on the other live about her cervical cancer. She had it as well, for hair loss
yeah. I noticed, and I noticed
prevention.
that she done really well with it as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
so with that, having that done, obviously, you know, going through the cancer, when someone thinks cancer, you think hair loss, don't you? You think, you know,
100%.
they're going to lose their hair, they're having
Yeah,
chemotherapy. So did you ever get any questions about it? The fact that you
yeah.
hadn't lost your hair, in a
I think
sense?
I think my mum always said people don't realise how much you're suffering, Holly, because you've still got your hair.
Yeah.
I think because people expected a cancer patient to be bald, and that then
The
equals, oh,
dramatic look
yeah,
of, yeah.
yeah. I
Especially
think
for a
people,
woman losing their hair, you know, it's a dramatic look that you associate, you know, with
yeah,
cancer, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And you know, there's some people out there that embrace it and they
Oh
get rid
yeah.
of their hair straight away. And some people have like parties, like taking your hair, shaving your hair. But I just, for me, I felt like I'd lost so much of my identity already. I know it sounds silly because it's only hair, but I just felt you're not going to look like, I'm just not, you know, I already don't feel like myself. I don't want to not look like myself either. So that's why I went through the cold cap, and it's not an easy thing to do. I can't
So,
remember.
so what is it exactly? Obviously, apart from it being a cold cap.
Yeah, so I can't remember. I can't remember the temperature now, but I think it was minus something. I can't remember if it was -3 or more than that. It's basically like this, like hat you put on your head. You see people with just like a big pink thing over, because that goes over the top of the cap, and it's just got freezing cold water constantly running through it, constant keeping that temperature, so it freezes, I think, the cells on your head, so that it can try and stop your hair from falling out. I think unfortunately with some types of blood cancers and stuff, you can't have that, because in case it missed to something.
Yeah.
But obviously if you've got like breast or something like that where you can, some people still go on to lose their hair, unfortunately. I sat next to a lady who did. I think I lost about 25% of my hair at the end of it. But for me, it was worth it. I think the first 10-15 minutes you have this like brain freeze feeling, you know, like after you've had like a slush puppy or something, you're like, it's that feeling for 15 minutes. So I just put my head down and I would just zone out, and no one could talk to me in that 15 minutes. But after you got through that, it just sort of numb.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, bless you. So 15 treatments, obviously chemotherapy, you had the cold cap, and then what was it, time to reevaluate? Did they reassess, rescan?
Yeah. So at the end of my chemo, I then had another MRI scan, and it was the scanxiety, as we call it, is awful. Just waiting for your results is the worst thing ever, the longest time ever. Obviously, the places that you go inside your head is unimaginable, really. But yeah, I went for my results, and they said I had a complete response to the chemotherapy, which was amazing, really, because, you know, some people still have cells left behind, and mine was the best possible outcome, basically, that I did have a complete response. So I did go on to then have what they call a lumpectomy, which is where you have an operation to cut round the tumour, where the tumour was, and then they biopsy it, and that's when they said that I had a complete response to chemo, because there was no cells left in that area that were cancerous.
And so after that, you went on to have the mastectomy, didn't you?
Yeah, so through the whole thing of my journey, I just, obviously I'd been living in Sydney, and I was just like, whatever the quickest option is, get me to Sydney. I want to go back to my life, my job, my friends, my apartment. That's all I had in my head. So for me to have the lumpectomy, which is just the cut in the small part away, was the quickest option to get back out there. So they wanted me to have some radiation, some radiotherapy, sorry, in the area. They call it bolts and braces, just so if there was anything in that area, just to be 100% sure. Yeah. So I planned to do that. I went in for like my first appointments to get me ready for it. And I just didn't feel comfortable. I just, you know, you just have an instinct feeling about something. I just thought, I don't want this, because I think it was my left breast, the tumour was in. I didn't want to have radiation so close to my heart. Yeah. I just had that in my brain, and I'm not telling anyone else who was listening to this who'd had breast cancer, like, you've got to roll with what you think's best for you. But for me, that was the best decision. So then I had to make the decision to have both my breasts removed, basically, to eliminate the chances of it ever coming back. Because of my BRCA gene, I already had like something like a 70-80% chance of the breast cancer returning.
Yeah, that high.
So yeah, it was just a no-brainer, really. It was just, you know, I'm being silly trying to get back to Australia. What's the point of going back over there and just the same thing happening again, you know?
But at that moment in time, you were ripped away from that point in your life, weren't you?
Yeah, I was taken away against my will, you know. It was my life, and I was angry. But to be honest, like the anxiety that I had, the medical anxiety that I had, I was suffering from like really bad panic attacks and everything anyway. So I don't think I really could have gone. I think it was just this thing in my head that I had to get back to where I left off, really.
Yeah, well, because that's where it was good.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a massive decision, and this is what a lot of the people with the BRCA gene, and there is other genes out there other than the BRCA, have to make the decision whether to have their breast removed. Obviously, I think at any age it's awful, but especially when you're sort of 20s, 30s, because yeah, it's just, I don't know, anyone could probably say it's worse for them, but I think when you're younger, things like that are more important to you, aren't they?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So following on from that, obviously at the time you were dating, weren't you? So talking about sort of body positivity in the
yeah,
situation, obviously I know this is sort of like, you know, something that you really want to sort of talk about and promote, because
yeah.
the lovely Curly, who we know as now your fiance,
Yeah, we put a ring on it.
so you were dating at the time, weren't you? How long had you been together?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a bad story really, but we met when we was in Sydney, um, but we got sort of torn apart because he had to go off and do his farm work. And a long story short, he just got back from his farm work. We finally thought we was going to be able to be together. I got diagnosed and had to fly back to England. He did come over for a week to surprise me for my 30th birthday while I was having treatment, and then he flew back to Sydney to finish his year. But we sort of stayed in contact. Um, and then I decided to have the mastectomy and not go back to Australia. But we sort of stayed in contact. We weren't really, I wouldn't say we was dating at the time because we hadn't been together for over a year. But yeah, I did. I'm sure Kelly won't mind me saying, while he was in Australia, I went on a couple of dates with someone else, which never went anywhere. But I did explain to him that I was going to be having a double mastectomy because I just thought, at first I thought I'm never going to meet anyone who's going to want to be with me, you know, after having cancer and then having both my breasts removed. Obviously they were reconstructed and they've done an amazing job, but it's still not the same. And I sat this guy down and told him, and he was absolutely fine. It wasn't even a big deal to him, you know. But then that didn't work out. That's when me and Curly got back into contact with each other. I had my double mastectomy, and then Curly come home about 2 weeks after I'd had it, and literally has never made me feel any different ever. If anything, he's probably made me feel the most beautiful I ever have in my life, you know. So that's probably helped a lot with my coming to terms with it all.
Mm. And so, I mean, left now, obviously you've had the reconstruction, but you're having tattoos. Are you still having the tattoos for the
Yeah,
nipples put back
so
on? And
yeah, so they basically, what they do is they remove obviously all the tissue, um, and they have to obviously remove the nipples as well. That was something I found really hard to come to terms with because yeah, I sat in my surgeon's room 3 or 4 times begging him to let me keep them, and he just said, why put yourself through all of this to keep them where there's still tissue just to get it back again? Like, why would you do that? And I think it was obviously the children's side of not being able to breastfeed. It was the being a woman and feeling sexy side of things. So that was really hard, but he was right. And yeah, you know how my mum was sat beside me, and I'd put her through the worst year of her life. Like, how could I do that to her again? You know. So I decided to do it. And then they reconstructed me. So they put in like a breast implant, a small one. And then after, when you're recovered, you go back each few weeks to have saline inserted, and that expands them. So you can pretty much go up to whatever size you want.
have you finished sizing now? You got
Yeah,
to
I've
the
finished.
size that you want?
Yeah, I'm happy. And to be honest, like I am definitely a silver lining sort of girl, and I was so big busted before. I could actually now wear little tops and I can choose any bikini I want, whereas before I just couldn't do that. So I actually, if anything, I'm embracing it, you know. Um, and yeah, I'm going to have nipples tattooed. So Yeah, so some women decide to have all sorts of funky things
I've
tattooed
seen
there.
some amazing artwork
Yeah,
actually. And they have this like when some ladies don't even have the reconstruction and they just have like their whole chest tattooed. It's amazing.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
stunning.
I'm going for the more traditional, and the nipple tattoos that some people do are just insane, like incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got my head around it really. I think as soon as I woke up from that operation, my head was around it. I went, I just remember going and lay. I literally walked to the operating theatre and laid on the bed, and I remember laying there thinking, "What the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this?" And then they obviously give me the anaesthetic. I was asleep, and I woke up, and I just had the biggest relief I've ever had in my
Oh.
life. And I was just happy. I was just so happy that I'd made that decision to save my life, you know.
So
So
does that eliminate it completely now? Does it?
no, it doesn't eliminate it completely because there's still tissue in that
I suppose
area.
it doesn't eliminate anything for anybody ever
No.
completely, does it?
So I don't really know. Again, percentages isn't my strong point because I just choose to, like, I've done everything I can in the sense that I've eliminated that the biggest thing of
The
that
biggest
80%
risk.
chance. Yeah, the biggest risk. I eat healthily, I'm fit, I take care of myself. So what more can I do? Why do I need to know what
No.
the percentage chance of it coming back? It's not going to serve me any purpose at all. So
And it's probably going to be the same as everybody else,
yeah, I
who
mean, it's going
hasn't
to be like,
experienced anything, to date.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So I just choose to like live in the moment every day, as it comes, and just enjoy life and not worry about the probabilities of it coming back.
mm. So I know one of the topics that I've spoken to people before is when someone they know, they love, a friend, a family member, is diagnosed with cancer, um, how to support them, because
Yeah,
sometimes, you know, certain words can be certain triggers, certain, people are worried that if they say something, like they might say the wrong thing. What do they, if they want to sort of, do they want to make them feel like it's a big thing, or,
yeah,
not say anything at all? And I think you've made it really easy for everyone around you, as much as you can, that you've been quite open and wanting to sort of talk about it, and happy to sort of speak about it when you've been ready to talk about it. But
yeah,
I suppose for some people, probably more the people who are trying to support, as opposed to the person experiencing the cancer, finding it difficult to know how to communicate.
yeah, yeah. I think that is the thing. Like, I wish there was sort of like a better manual on it because I found that people didn't know how to be around me, to be honest. And I did find that hard because I just want to scream at people like, I'm still me, I'm still Holly, like I'm still a girl, I still want to have a laugh, like, yeah, I am ill, but so I think it's so important for people to know. And I think it's just to be really open and honest and don't skate around the subject or be awkward about it. And there's going to be times that person's going to want to talk about it and get everything off their chest, but there's sometimes they're going to want to just chill with you. I think the best thing to do is just be present for your friend. Just be there, go around and get in bed with them and watch a movie. They're not going to want to do all the things they did before because chemo takes a lot from you. You can't go to the pub or anything like that. It's just, yeah, don't take your friend to the pub or anything like that. For nothing again. But yeah, just turn up and say, let's watch a movie. And say to them, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to tell me what's happened in your treatment this week, or would you prefer not to talk about it? And that person is either going to say, yeah, let's talk about it, I need to get this off my chest, or they're going to say, no, let's just like get on with it, because there's days where you do dwell on it and there's days where you don't. So
Or
you can
just want to
still go
forget
on and
about
have a
it.
life. Yeah, you can still have a life when you're having chemo. I still did do things.
Mm.
I just got a lot more tired, a lot quicker. So yeah, and I think there was a time where I was just taken away for a night in a spa hotel. It was so lovely just to get away from the hospital world.
Mm.
So I just think, just get the girls or the guys or whatever and go round and have a girls' night or a boys' night. Like, just give them some normality.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to get a lot of love, and I got loads of things sent in the post all the time, and they're the things that just keep you going. It's not because you're getting presents and material, it's just the love that you get and support just keeps you going, I think.
And so how long has it been now since, because we can't call it remission, is that right? Is it 5 years?
Yeah, I think at the moment they call it NED, which is no evidence of disease. So there's no
Right.
evidence at the moment. I spoke to my oncologist a little while back actually and said, like, when am I out of the danger zone? He said, like, when you get to 5 years really is like when you can start like chilling out about it really. So I'm at 2.5 years now, so I'm at the halfway mark. Yeah, woo. So yeah, 3 years clear in January. So obviously, I mean, that date, the 10th of January is like better to me than my birthday, you know. It's like the best day, just marking that day that I found out. I still remember it clearly, just me and my mum running through the hospital, just screaming and crying, and everyone looking at us like, what's going on? So yeah, it's definitely an achievement every 10th of January.
So obviously 2.5 years on, recovery process,
Yeah.
how are things now? Because doesn't just recovery just doesn't finish there,
Yeah.
does it?
It's so hard. And I think another thing I just want to add for anyone who is poorly, not necessarily cancer, just poorly in general, is you should just tell your friends and family how you're feeling, because so often I was like, yes, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, because everyone's like, be strong, stay positive, because you don't know what else to say. But you're like, oh my god, like I can't be strong, can't be positive. So the best thing to also say to that person is it's okay not to be okay, because you feel like everyone's calling you brave and everyone's calling you strong, so that's the face that you've got to show. Whereas you're lonely, no one understands how you feel, and how could they if you don't tell them? So I think that's one important message that I think people who poorly and the people that are supporting the people that are should know, that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And also going back to what you asked earlier, is just tell the person how you're feeling, like, oh, I feel really awkward, I don't know what to say to you, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just
And then what
being
was the
open.
question you just asked with I
I was just saying about being like 2.5 years on, do you
Yeah.
feel fully recovered?
Yeah.
Obviously, you look amazing, you look well, you're glowing and you're fit and you're healthy, and you've helped yourself, amazingly to get yourself fit and strong. But I mean, in terms of sort of recovery, does it, are you still suffering from all the
Yeah.
treatment that you had?
Yeah, because I think, a couple of weeks down the line, and this is not a dig at anyone, at my friends or family, because they've never been through it, so they wouldn't know. But they're expecting you to like do shots of tequila 2 weeks after having 15 sessions of chemo, 2 major operations, and it's like, I'll be there one day, but not now. And yeah, you go out and it gets to 10 o'clock and I'm shattered, and people are like, oh, come on, Holly, and they make me feel like I'm a bore. But it's like, I know my body now, and I know when I've had enough, and I just get a lot, I'm just myself still, but just a lot tireder.
Yeah.
And I forget things, my memories never been the same, so I do. I've got neuropathy, so my fingers, I lose feeling. So, I might drop things, or I might, if someone asks me to do a task that's fiddly, and I'm not, I'll do it because I just feel embarrassed to say, oh, I can't do that because because I had chemo, or I'm still tired, remember, because I had chemo. I hate having to constantly remind people. I just hate the pity that, or the thought that I'm looking for sympathy. So I really do struggle still. Obviously I've come a long way in the 2.5 years, but yeah, I still feel it now.
Yeah. And so out of this, obviously, recently, you also had some bad news following, breast cancer, and, talk about it as little or as much as you want to. I know it's a hard topic, which you've, the beautiful person that you are, thought of something beautiful to, create from what happened. But obviously you were told that you might not ever get pregnant. Is that?
Yeah, so with chemotherapy, unfortunately, there is the risk of like being infertile. I didn't really ever have time to, some people go down the line of having their eggs frozen, but there's a wait list for that. It takes some time to do, and my doctor just wanted me to straight into chemo. So I'd say to anyone, any girl that, or guy, because they can obviously become infertile, is to speak to your doctor about fertility, because it's not always at the top of their agenda. So it was only when I asked about it that he actually gave me the option to have a monthly injection that was to the next best thing to freezing your eggs, basically, to sort of preserve some of your eggs. So obviously, yeah, it's been tough not knowing whether I'd ever be able to have a child or not, because personally I really would love to be a mum, as I know my partner would love to be a dad. And last year we found out, when did I find out? I think September, October time, that I was pregnant. So obviously, absolutely, like, so happy. We all were, like, all my family. We were elated, obviously, really excited. Just the fact that I could get pregnant. And unfortunately, at 12 weeks, I found out that the baby no longer had a heartbeat. So yeah, obviously when you asked me about it earlier, I didn't want my first instinct was to say no, I don't want to speak about it, because it still was a really tough topic for me. But I also think that no one talks about miscarriage. It's such a taboo subject. Like, you don't tell anyone you're pregnant in the first 12 weeks in case you lose it. And I don't know, that's what I did. I didn't tell so many people, because I was like, oh, what if I lose it? And I just don't think, I think if you want to tell people, then you should be able to. And yeah, if you lose it, you have to tell them. But it's just, I don't know, it's just such, no one, some people don't think of it as a baby, but I'm like, no one knew that I had a baby growing inside me, and that I thought of it as a little girl, when we'd all called it Luna and thought of her as Luna, So I think it's such an important thing for people to normalise talking about. So yeah, while I was going through my cancer treatment, I had thought about wanting to do cancer care packages, because it's just nice to be able to send someone like what you're thinking of them, but also at the time not really knowing what to send them. So after I lost the baby, I decided to create a business called Love from Luna. So it's just doing some nice little gifts, really, not just cancer care packs, but just like one's called Hug in a Box, just to send someone, just to let them know you're thinking of them through the post. There's the cancer care package, which I've put in things like alcohol-free shower gels and deodorants and ginger nut biscuits, because when I was going through chemo and I was feeling sick, to eat ginger nut was like a God save, So I've tried to put a bit of like my own experiences in it. And just obviously at the same time have something that's sort of in memory and good from the baby that we lost.
Yeah. And I mean, beautiful, obviously, to do that in memory, but also as well, for people who are going back to that, how do you support someone if you don't know how to support them, or you don't know what to say or do, something like that from someone like yourself who has been there and understands that, do you know what, actually, what I don't want you to send me a bottle of wine or a bunch of flowers or a bar of chocolate.
Yeah.
You sending me a hot water bottle and some fluffy socks and, like a self-care sketch pad and ginger nut biscuits is exactly what is going to, help me right now.
Definitely. And like a journal, because it's so important to write down your thoughts and your feelings and everything, and how you feel, so just little things like that are just brilliant. Like, yeah, I did appreciate the flowers and the wine and everything, of course I did, but yeah, it's just nice, they're little like things that they'll need to get them through. So like some nice pajamas or something like that.
Yeah, babe, you know how much I love you. You're an absolute inspiration, and you remain one of my biggest inspirations. If ever I feel like, one of the things my mum always sort of taught me growing up was to count my blessings. I used to hate her when she used to say it to me when I was younger, because I was like, no, I have problems too, But honestly, it has always stuck with me. And I've always said, whenever I feel tough, like I'm having a tough time, I can think of someone like yourself who's, absolutely smashed through some of the hardest times, and just remember, do you know what I mean? We've got to live each day. We really have,
100%.
And, we've just got to, really take life, grab it and make the most of everything that we've got, because, when everything happened with yourself, you know, obviously, you know, you're one of my closest friends, and you know, it something like that when it is your closest friend, you know, when
Feel it
it's,
too.
yeah, when it's so far, you know, with other people and you hear about cancer, but you know, when it is someone you love and you genuinely, you know, like it's like right on your doorstep, it's, I think it's a completely different feeling. And you know, I can speak for probably quite a lot of our friends that, you know, we're just so bloody happy that all is,
I'm
you
still
know,
here to annoy you.
exactly.
No, I do think like that what I've learned, what I've definitely learned from it is to appreciate your friends and family. I think before I was almost, I don't feel like I was ever like content because I was always looking for like the next best thing. You know, you're at a bar and I want to go to the next one because it might be better there, or you know, you're seeing someone but there might be someone better out there. There's always, you know, you're always looking for something better. And I think now I'm just so content because I just love who I've got around me, and I'm just happy to be here. And you know, I just find like, I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but just the beauty in it, like little things now. So little things make me happy instead of the big things. And I think that's for the first time ever in my life I like love myself, you know, like my body image and everything, because I just think there's so many things that are more important in life than, you know, what you look like. And obviously I like getting dressed up and putting makeup on and doing my hair, but I mean this is just the reason that you're here, you know. So just like love yourself and treat yourself good.
Yeah, 100%. And so finishing on a high, Holly, when's the
Yes.
date? When are you getting married?
It's May the 17th next year, hopefully, all being well. You don't annoy me too much in that time. No, I'm joking.
We are absolutely, we can't wait for it, babe. And
Yes.
honestly, you deserve everything in the world and more. And,
Yeah.
you know, thank you
And I
for
just want
coming
to
on.
say while I'm on the here to you as well that, you know, obviously you've had a massive, and I've told you this before, for miscarriage and after me, you know, being in recovery, you've like helped me massively, like not only just an emotional support, but getting me back to fit and healthy and the know-how. So I just want to say thank you to you, and I love you.
That's what friends do, baby girl.
I
I'm
know.
always here no matter what, and I love you millions. So thank you so much for coming on. I love you so, so much.
You're welcome.
And
Love you.
yeah, we'll catch up for a couple of tequila shots when you're feeling
Yeah.
you got some energy, but we'll go home by 10.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the energy for tequila now. I might just be in bed by 10. So
love you so much.
right,
Thank you so much for coming on. And I'll save it now. And so if anyone wants to watch it on repeat or catch up, yeah, thanks again. Love you millions. Bye. See you later, baby. Bye bye bye.